we'll take a look at the other side of the fence, right? So it's good for us to know the perspective of the client. And in this particular lecture, I'll be talking about the side of the client. So I'll be wearing the hat of the client rather than that of the consultant. So things that are mentioned here, these are all on the side of the client. Now, why is it important that we know what the side of the client is so that we know what to anticipate? Okay. And if ever there are any objections on the side of the client, we come prepared. So understand that the things that we are going to mention in this particular lecture, these are the common things that a client should be doing with respect to a consultant. And therefore, you need to be prepared when that client brings that up, okay, in any of the interactions with you as the consultant. Now, consultancy is most effective when there is a productive relationship and working partnership between the consultant and the client. So now we're going to go through some of the things that the client should bear in mind whenever they're dealing with a consultant. So the first tip uh, to for a particular client is you always need to start with an understanding of why you're buying consultancy. So as a client, you don't just simply engage a consultant for no reason. You have to understand why you want to engage a consultant in the first place. Okay, and you have to be clear about that. You have to be concrete about it as well as to why you'd really want to have a consultant in the first place. Remember, a consultant can be expensive, and at some point in time, you really have to make some hard justification as to why you want to engage a consultant. You have to be prepared why you want to get a consultant in the first place. So that's the first thing that a client should bear in mind. So that's the first tip. Now, tip number two, take time in clarifying the scope and deliverables of the engagement. Uh, there are times when clients tend to be very dismissive or very passive. Uh, they trust the consultants to do everything for them. Okay, on the side of the consultant, that might seem to be nice because okay, at least the client won't bother me. But you as a client, you also need to protect yourself because perhaps the consultant might be giving you things that you probably are not really be needing. Okay, so they're just finding ways to make sure that they pay you more. They pay the consultants more. So even before having that engagement with the consultant, well, take time to clarify the scope and the deliverables of the engagement. Now, another tip for the client is that don't forget that you always have a choice not to buy or to use someone else. Uh, just because you have a good relationship with a particular consultant doesn't mean that it always has to be that particular consultant. You never know. It might be good also in the long run to engage a different person, or maybe not have that relationship or not have that engagement in the first place. Okay? So don't feel forced or compelled that you have to get a consultant. Okay. At the end of the day, always have that feeling of choice. Okay. Now also check the proposal. So whenever a client gives you a proposal, make sure that the proposal really matches your needs and expectations. Remember, the consultant is there to help solve a problem, to help address a need, okay, whether it be a conscious need or an unconscious need, but it has to serve a need. So if a proposal has a lot of bells and whistles, something superfluous, then it's probably not a proposal for you. Of course, you have to take a look at the billing arrangements upfront, agree with it. Don't agree to billing arrangements that are just like on the fly, to the point that the consultant would strong arm you into agreeing how they will be paid. Okay, so if the entire contract, let's say, is 100%, and if the billing arrangements require you that you pay 50% upfront, then you have to agree to that from the very beginning. Don't let the client like do a sleeper on you and say that, okay, oh yeah, by the way, you have to pay 50% upfront. And then the contract has been signed already. So that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't be doing that. Okay. I agree to the billing arrangements upfront. Now, Also clarify who is the client. Okay. Now, when you say who is the client, you have to understand within yourselves who will be dealing with the consultant often. Will it be you? Will it be a team within the client organization? Who's going to be the point of contact? Okay. Who's really going to be served by this consultant? Okay. Would it just be a few set of people, or would it be a larger group of people? Another tip to bear in mind would be decide how much freedom you will give to the consultants. There are times, especially for very sensitive projects, you really restrict their freedom, so you don't really give them free rein. But in other times, you probably would want to give consultants as much freedom as you can possibly give. Okay? So understand what the work needs to be done from the side of the consultant, and then decide how much latitude you'd actually give to them. Uh, as a client, you should expect a lot from your consultant, but of course, don't expect miracles. Okay, especially for things that are not really in their control anymore. Okay, so some of them, perhaps they are like turnaround specialists. They've done a lot of 180-degree turns in most of their clients, but don't expect them to make miracles, especially if the situation you find yourself in, well, it was partly because of your fault, right? So, but yeah, you can be demanding with your consultant. You should be demanding with your consultant, especially if you are going to pay them a lot. Confirm precisely who is in the consulting team. So this is another tip that you want to keep in mind. Who is going to deal with you? Okay, from the consultant's part. Okay. Uh, it's good to know who is going to be in the consulting team because, well, for one, you might be revealing important information, and you might accidentally disclose something to somebody who is not part of the consulting team. So that might uh, expand or put you in some sort of risk exposure. Okay. Uh, Another tip is read the small print in the contract. Okay. My suggestion also to consultants is that when you come up with contracts, try to be as clear and as plain as you can be, because having small prints, well, sometimes it reeks of insincerity. And just like any other relationship, you want to make sure that you're disclosing things appropriately. But you, on the side of you as the client, well, try to make sure that the consultant is not doing a sneaky, dirty trick on you. So read the small print in the contract. And if you really don't trust the client, then don't buy. Don't engage the consultant. I think this is a very commonsensical tip, but sometimes we forget, especially because the consultant, perhaps because of history, this consultant has been with us for a very long period of time, but because something happened to the point that the trust was eroded, do we still engage the consultant? At this point, I mean, if the trust is no longer there, then you have to sever the relationship as soon as possible. Now, before saying yes to any agreement or engagement, be clear about what happens when they finish. Okay. So when they finish, what's going to be the expectation? Okay, so here are the deliverables. What's the expectation? Will they give you training? Will they support you even after they rolled out the solution? What is it? Be clear with that. Okay. And do that before even you agree to everything at the start. And then throughout the engagement, you plan checkpoints. Make sure that you don't just simply limit your engagement at the start during the signing of the contract, then afterwards, that's it. I mean, you're not going to deal with them anymore. Well, that doesn't really work. Okay. So make sure that you uh, organize like cadence meetings, okay, or checkpoint meetings, so that you can also keep progress or keep track of the progress of your engagement. Okay. And obviously, because you are in a relationship, don't leave your consultants hanging. So prepare for their arrival. Make sure that everything that they need to have, no, the people that they need to talk to, that they're prepared. Okay, that They know that things are being facilitated for them. Okay? Just because they're consultants, just because they're like paid hands, doesn't mean that you'll just abuse them, right? And just leave them on their own. You have to treat them well also, and make sure that the everything is facilitated, because it also gives you an advantage. If things are facilitated for the consultants, then they can finish their work fast, and they can deliver things sooner than you would have expected. Now, keep an eye on the consultants who are talking within your organization. So mainly just to protect yourself, okay, from possible breaches of privacy and the likes. Okay. But definitely, you'd probably want to protect yourself also, because there are some people within your own organization as a client. Maybe they didn't like the idea of the engagement, so they probably would do some sort of character assassination, or they'll try to sabotage the engagement. So it's good to keep an eye. Well, it's not really like censoring or that sort, but just understand who the consultants are talking to once their engagement has already started in your organization. And then when you pay for work, not for their bells and whistles, okay, or their sales activity, as they say. So if they deliver this, then pay according to what has been delivered. Okay. And whenever a consulting engagement is being delivered, remember it's a partnership. You also have a stake in it, so you do something about it as well. Don't leave everything to the consultant to do everything. Okay, you have your own share in in that engagement. Okay, so if you need to cooperate with certain things, well, it's a partnership. And then, well, throughout the course of the engagement, make sure that you check back with your proposal. Make sure that things that are supposed to be delivered are delivered. There might be some things that haven't been delivered yet, so it's important for you to remind the consultant to, eventually deliver these things, and check the deliverables. Don't trust them to say that, okay, I've already delivered this. Okay, please sign off. Right? Check them for yourself. Don't just simply accept them. If there is something missing, or if there's something that's defective, demand it from the consultant that they fix it before you accept. And lastly, pay only the bill if you're happy with the work and the invoice is reasonable, so that they're not overcharging you. Okay, and if you're happy with the work that they've done collectively, then pay. But you have to pay. Okay, so if you're happy and it's reasonable, then pay. Make sure you pay your consultant, because that's also part of building any relationship with your consultant. And with that, I've given you some snapshot of what the client should be thinking whenever they're engaging with a consultant. And I hope that these are tips that would also help you as a consultant to prepare for any possible objections that might come from a client.